This is the warning right now. The video contains very graphic cancer images. So, right now, you are warned. There are graphic cancer images in this video. So, let's proceed. How y'all doing? This is forewarned long ago. As a matter of fact, in the early 90s, a co-worker introduced me to a book his father had bought entitled Behold a Pair of Horse by a man named William Cooper. He told me some things that were in the book I thought were kind of outrageous at the time. Remember, this was the early mid-90s, so they were outrageous at the time to someone who had no idea what was really going on in this world. In the year 2007, I was at Barnes & Noble and I saw a book. It was the only one there. Not the only book there, but the only copy of Behold a Pair of Horse. This was 2007. I bought the book, started reading immediately, and that led to a long, deep rabbit hole with many different tunnels. Some of the tunnels went into La La Land dead ends, and some of the tunnels were very enlightening. I had a pretty good existence researching, working, raising my children, being just part of my family, having a good time, learning. I actually got hooked, obviously, around 2008-9 into Alex Jones. A couple of years later, started realizing that he had to be a shield of some sort, and kind of dismissed him and started doing independent research and investigation. Started finding things that were a little strange, but nothing, impossible or outrageous. Then I got cancer, and right after I got cancer and got cancer again, and I was in a motorcycle accident, and I got cancer again, and then I decided I was bored, so I would get cancer again. Every time I had a surgery, I got cancer, basically. It was a terrible time for my family. I was in a lot of pain. I was given 4 months to live. It was actually, doctor said 6 months, but it was 4 months. I was a dead man. Started out with a small bump on my right temple. I went to my doctor, who looked at it and sent me to a dermatologist. I went to the dermatologist and I paid $253 for him to send me to I don't want to say the name of the hospital, but it is a university hospital, and it is very famous. If you have not heard of this hospital, I am sure you have heard of its basketball team, because basketball is really what this hospital is about, or university is about. Anyway, they removed the tumor using the Moz method. I came home with a large gaping hole on the side of my head. In the bathroom that night, I was unaware there was an artery exposed, and it burst. Every time my heart beat, it would squirt blood about 3.5 to 4 feet. I've never seen anything like it. It would squirt the blood all over the bathroom cabinet, the wall, and then I turned my head to the mirror to look, and it just sprayed the mirror with blood. I stopped the bleeding, called the next day and let them know, what had happened, and they were also apologetic. So I went back for my second surgery. They removed the rest of it using the Moz method and put a skin graft over it. It worked out pretty well, grew back very nicely. But he had seen cancer in a parotid gland on the right side of my cheek, but he wasn't concerned about it. He informed me that he would definitely keep an eye on it. Well, I know I was going to keep an eye on it. After 2 weeks, a bulge popped up or grew up on the side of my face, right where that parotid gland was, or yeah, was now, but anyway, they told me when I called after I sent an email of the picture. The nurse informed me that the doctor said I was just being too anxious and that I needed to wait until my appointment 2 months later. I tried to get another appointment. I had one scheduled for May, and it got lost in the system somehow, and they had no record of me ever having the appointment, even though I had the printout copy from this university basketball team school hospital thing that I definitely had an appointment that day. They did not see me until the growth was exponentially larger. When he saw me, he immediately said that I needed a surgery immediately, which was 10 days later, but nevertheless, it was immediately I needed surgery. I went to the hospital, was cut under my neck, up beside my jawline. The doctor removed the tumor. He told my family the best he could. He got as much as he could without going too far because of the nerve in my face. Shortly after that, another tumor started growing at my ear, right in front of my ear, and inside of my ear. I came to find out later. So I started going through radiation and chemo. I've always found it very interesting that they're putting a chemical in my blood, but before they put that chemical in your blood, they put on what looks like a hazmat suit just to handle the bag. I've never been a big fan of chemo. Most people aren't, but that's what I had to go through. I guess the insurance, whatever. But the radiation was 2 times a day. It was very aggressive. It created blisters inside of my mouth. My entire mouth became blistered. I couldn't eat anything. It was absolutely the most horrible experience I've ever gone through. Even with the cancer, it was the little things like the blisters in my mouth that was just so terrible, so terrible. So we had to reduce that to radiation once a day, and the chemo, of course. So after the horrible radiation deformities and being bolted down to the radiation bench, which was horrible. I mean, claustrophobic. Oh my good gracious! If I had fallen off that table, it would have broken my neck. The way they bolted this mask over my face in order to radiate the correct area. And there were times when I was inside that machine, bolted down to that table, that it was just prey. And I considered myself a Christian, but I really didn't know at the time what God was all about. I just thought I knew. But anyway, I basically recovered and I didn't have cancer again. I was happy. I got cut, or the radiation, or the chemo, or whatever. Another tumor started growing inside of my ear. you could actually see the tumor in my ear canal, and it hurt. When I say it hurt, I mean it hurt. Anyone who's had a severe earache, consider yourself lucky not to have this pain, because it made an ear infection a walk in the park. This tumor was growing out of my ear canal. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. But the surgery that I needed had to be investigated by the Tumor Board of the basketball hospital. So the Tumor Board at the basketball hospital decided that my life wouldn't be worth living if I had this operation. This is the life I am speaking to you right now with. This life, because that was my last operation. It would not be worth living. Other things happened, but for the time being, I was turned down by the Tumor Board. I really didn't know what to do or anything. I mean, they would not perform this operation, and I had to have it. I mean, there was absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts. I was going to die if I didn't have this operation. But the Tumor Board turned me down. If anyone's ever been turned down by the Tumor Board, you're not listening to this then, because you're dead. How a group of men, women, human beings can decide that a person's life is not worth living, especially with a kid in 8th grade, 9th grade, wife, my own business, very successful, doing great in every other aspect. How they can decide that I'm not worth trying an operation. I can't even put into words. It's really hard to understand that. But I had 2 children, 2 sons that just started high school. One was still in 8th grade, the other one was a freshman. And they were going to lose their daddy in about 4 months. And while I was sitting here dying, they had to watch that. And I had a lot of epiphanies during this time. When people you haven't seen in 25, 30 years start coming to your home, that's not a good sign. When your mother tells you, I know you feel bad, but we're going to have to get together and get everything in order, it doesn't make you feel good. That's not a good thing when people walk in and turn around and you can see them starting to cry. They come in and say, hey, and their eyes start to tear up and go red and puffy right in a matter of seconds, standing in front of you and looking down at what has happened to you. It's a very, very horrible thing. And I can't imagine what my wife was going through. I can't imagine what my kids were going through during this time. It was so terrible. I mean, I was a dead man. And I was a dead man because a tumor board turned down my operation. Because my life right now would not be worth living. I happened to tell someone, and this is where God really comes into play. There's a whole line of events that occurred prior, decades prior, that led up to this one event. And a customer of mine happened to have a relative who happened to have status as a donor to the basketball university. And he made a phone call one morning. Later that afternoon, I got a phone for an appointment. I was very shocked. I was very disgusted also. And when I say disgusted, that is disgusting. Where someone, because you're afraid that an alumni is going to stop donating to your school or your hospital or your basketball program or whatever, now you're going to attempt a surgery on someone who, without the surgery, would die. This is disgusting. But I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. They decided to go ahead with this operation. I stayed in the hospital for a little over 2 weeks. I no longer have a right ear. I no longer have a hinge on the right side of my jaw. It's kind of strange talking. I have to really pay attention to my words. Some of you may be able to hear it when I'm talking. But I went through this surgery and I came out the other side. And it was a journey. Like I said, I no longer have an ear or a hinge on the jaw on the right side. No longer have a right ear. I have a scar about 14, 16 inches long on my left thigh for the skin graft. Any of you are familiar with the eustachian tube that goes to the inside of the throat? From my eustachian tube, which is closed up on the right side, outward, is gone. Everything gone. I was unaware of all the material inside of your head. Part of my skull is also gone. They had to scrape a little bit. I was going to have a prosthetic ear installed, but really not sure if I have enough skull material left to do a permanent prosthetic type ear, and I don't want a magnet ear. Of course, it would be fun at parties. You go somewhere and say, "Hey, I lost an ear," scare little kids in Walmart or whatever. But I'm not doing that. Anyway, everyone was impressed with the surgery. My doctors were impressed. Family was impressed. I was impressed. I was doing good. And I had another follow-up appointment. There was a small bump on my neck, a small red bump, and I had noticed it before, and it was in pictures prior to the last surgery I had received. And I kind of thought it was a stitch that had been left under the skin and just needed cutting out. So I asked my doctor if he would cut the stitch out while I was there. He said no problem. Went into the little room. He numbed it, scalpeled it, said, "This is not a stitch, and you're doing good, but I think we need to have a biopsy done of this anyway." And of course I said, "Yeah, no kidding." So it was biopsied. I got the phone call. It was cancer. Again, I didn't need that phone call to tell me it was cancer because a tumor had already started growing where he had cut that out. Every time I got cut, I got hit. So I was starting to get a little wary. The tumor grew so fast. The oncologists, all the oncologists and the different kind of specialists, I don't know all their names, their job titles. Everyone was astounded. They could not believe how fast this thing, and I call it a thing. It was like an alien creature growing on my neck, and it was choking me to death. Well, I was told that you will be dead before Father's Day, and it's March. That's a long ride home. I mean, that's a very long ride home. Then you have to break the news to everyone. Then everybody starts coming around. You know, it. To be honest, I kind of felt like a circus animal, or the way the Elephant Man, the way they would expose him and charge people to come look at him. That's how I felt. It was just horrible. It really was. This growth that was just continuously mashing on my windpipe and my throat area in general. I was scared that I would wake up dead, basically. I mean, I wasn't able to sleep in the bed. I had to sleep in the recliner, sitting up. I'd have a towel wrapped around it, caught the drainage off on, which I had been doing before the radiation, that type of scenario was taking place. But now I was sitting here dying, and I was dying. There is no doubt. It was during this time that I come to find out that what I thought was God for all my life really wasn't what I thought God was, what God is, excuse me. God is entirely different than what I grew up thinking God was like. But I went to the hospital for an appointment. You know, everybody wants to see the dead man walking. And a doctor, an oncologist, whom I have never met. I wouldn't know that man today if he walked up to me and said hello. I would have no idea who this man is. He was off work and just happened to drop by the hospital. My doctor saw him, and to my betterment, he did decide that he would talk with me. He let me know there was an experimental type of drug, and would I be willing to give it a shot? I'm a dead man sitting in front of him. I'll be dead in 2 months. Of course I'm going to give it a shot. Are you out of your mind? I mean, bring on the leeches and the bloodletting. I mean, anything. I was willing to, try whatever they wanted to try, because stage 4 cancer is very bad. And knowing you're going to die, that's bad enough. But knowing that you're going to die choking to death is something entirely different. I'm not sure how I would have handled that. When you look back on your thoughts and how you felt at the time, knowing that you're going to choke to death, it really brings about thoughts that shouldn't be thought of. And you probably know what I'm saying here. It's very scary. Choking to death would be a terrible, terrible way to go. Slow, that's just lying here, just not being able to breathe. Oh, that's just I can't even imagine. It's terrible. But the moral of this story is there was a gland spoken of earlier in my right cheek that a doctor who performed the very first surgery said he was going to keep an eye on. And then 2 months from my appointment, I had a tumor growing. And after seeing this picture, that right there, I was being too anxious. So that tells me that the nurse may or may not have shown him the picture, or the nurse said he sent a picture and the doctor just refused to look at it, because when he saw me, I was normal except for the spot that was grafted on the right side at my temple, and now I've got this big swelling on the side. I honestly do not think the doctor even looked at my picture. I just really find it hard to believe that he saw it, and said I was being too anxious. Good gracious, that is terrible. Like I said earlier, I am blessed and chosen. I actually found a walk with God. A lot of people don't believe in God. I've never figured that out either. It just seems to me that, okay, you believe in God or you don't believe in God. Well, I'm not going to believe in God. Okay, well, what's the problem with believing in God? Hedge your bets. You die. What have you got to lose? Wow. It's just crazy in my opinion. Anyway, but Jesus, God, it's not a really hard thing to grasp. It's difficult because you feel like you're being restricted. And that's how a lot of people do feel. They feel as if they're being restricted if they commit to having a Savior in their life and actually believing what the prophets have said. I don't know how many people have looked at what has been said and what has been prophesied, but the Bible is true. And if you don't believe that, you really need to look a lot further than you're looking. I hear a lot of people talking about being brainwashed, and you're some type of brainwashed idiot or whatever if you believe the Bible. That is not the case at all. You're a brainwashed idiot if you do not believe the Bible. There is so much proof and facts surrounding the Bible. All I'm saying is, if the Bible was a tool that was being used to brainwash people, then you would see it in schools. You would have it more prevalent than it is. Whenever you mention the Bible, you're insulted or ridiculed or called a backward moron. You don't know what you're talking about. You've been sucked in by religion. And I just don't see the Bible being used as a tool. Because if it was, it would be a little more in our face. But anyway, all one can really say is investigate it. If you don't believe me, investigate it. There are new discoveries being made almost daily. It is definitely monthly, possibly weekly. New discoveries are being made every day. The Bible is true. The Bible is trying to tell us what Satan has done. And if you look back in time with an open mind, you will be able to see what Satan has done. Satan has twisted the Bible and has twisted the way people think about the Bible. But people are too brainwashed to see that. And they're brainwashed by society, by the screen that they watch that tells them how to live. Cancer benefited my walk with God more than anything that could have possibly happened to me. I am almost grateful. And the relationship I have with one of my parents now, I'm very happy. It would not have happened without cancer. Things are put into motion very early in our lives, and getting back to believing in God or not believing in God, you are crazy. You don't believe there is a higher power that is controlling everything. I would be dead from cancer now had I not met a friend when I was 16 years old. It's amazing to me when I look back and as a teenager meeting someone who would cause something to happen in my life that would just domino affect other things to happen in my life that would save me from cancer. God is great. I believe this is a very good place to end it. Right now I am 2 years and 2 months past my expiration date, and I am cancer free. Praise God. It's the only reason. Any of you doubters out there, I pray for you. But all you believers, you understand. And I guess all I can say is this has been my cancer story. And I'm just glad to be alive, being able to sit here and share this. Y'all all have a good one. This is forewarned long ago. You take it easy.